My name is Shray and I'm one of the founders at Helium. We've started Helium a couple of years ago. So I used to be part of a D2C enabler who used to create mobile apps for e-com brands. There I was exposed to the world that there are a lot of gaps in where technology is and where e-com lies in terms of tech capabilities. And with that simple insight, we began Helium. But I think we've come a long way from really optimizing and figuring out what tech gaps there exist and try and build solutions and POCs to now really we focus our attention to say, can we understand each and every visitor as your offline salesman would on an offline store, and reduce the insane amount of options that we get in digital buying, and just reduce that to a smaller construct so that buying is easier and simpler, but for brand websites. So we don't directly go to your customers on your behalf, but we enable you on your brand first experiences to do that. So I think I believe companies that have solved personalization at scale, they've had significant moat over the others. So think of it at beginning with the likes of Dubsmash, but eventually that coming down to Instagram and TikTok, which are primarily, which drives insane amount of traffic on a daily basis because it understands better. So similarly, Spotify does great recommendations, YouTube does great personalization recommendations. We believe that infrastructure and that data that's required to do personalization has always been a challenge, and that focus from a brand perspective to invest on that is something that's a gap that we identified. And then there are incumbents in that space which are doing really well in terms of the scale that they're operating at. But we believe personalization is never a P1 problem. So if I am an e-com brand, I'll make sure that there are products available from an inventory standpoint at every point in time. And then my core traffic is coming in from wherever I'm getting that traffic from. And then I look at optimization opportunities. So the self-serve nature of this platform, which is where GenAI has become very interesting for us, has what's unlocked value. So the time and effort it takes for a team to say create 1,000 variations of the same page, we've reduced that from say a few months that some of the other platforms offer to an hour. And that's where we feel the differentiation lies, that there is minute by minute and hour by hour learning to changing user behavior. So suddenly Diwali is off and now people are not buying ethnic wear, but now they're buying potentially winter wear because winter's around the corner in north of India, not in Bombay. So that insight is something that it's not readily available at scale, and even if it's readily available, I can't create an actionable out of it, which is what we are trying to bridge the gap. To sum it up, time to value and the effort and resources required to enable such experiences at an individual level is what differentiates us as compared to everybody else. I think I'll just double down on what I already said. Personalization is, and it's interesting, right? It's very counterintuitive for me to accept the fact that it's not a P1 problem for the people that are actually going to use it. But what we realize is that optimization is always a great problem if you don't have to invest a lot of time and effort, and you could pick up the tribal knowledge that's getting built out in a small community of experts and really extrapolate as a system. So from that perspective, our time to value and the effort to value is significantly lower, and that's something that almost everywhere. So I think the single line that captures in a sense is we've operated with brands at scale of a few crores in traffic on a daily basis. So brands of that scale, our go live time is a couple of days versus 10 to 12 months for any other brand, any other competitor that sort of operates in our space. So that there is immediate value unlock and recurring effort required is minimal. And that's been possible thanks to agentic systems allowing us to do it autonomously. And I think, that's something that people are excited about and want to try us. I think almost every GenAI founder is sort of up at night thinking that we're one ChatGPT update away from not existing, or we're one Google small product team away from just losing relevance. But I think those are beyond our controls. But what fundamentally, what we stay up and conscious about is where you shop gonna change. Would you still shop on a brand? I mean, I think out of the 100 people that shop digitally, 80 to 90 of those shop on, marketplaces, while 10 to 20 of those shop on the brand website. And that's still a significant, large enough play for us. But would that go down, and would ChatGPT or a Gemini just take over, and you'd rather go to a ChatGPT and say, find me the best pair of earphones, and hence potentially, that singularity in terms of buying experiences might make us slightly irrelevant. I think make us irrelevant at all, completely. But that's a fundamental risk that we're sort of playing it. I think what we've so it's a large eyewear brand in the country. We've worked with, they're one of the largest. They're the largest. So with them, what we've been able to do is create efficiencies in terms of identifying. So it's interesting where the simple insight of there are people from different demographics that prefer different glass shapes. So I might prefer circular, frame, while somebody else prefer and the size. So all of these variables, even they didn't have idea of how different people and different age groups, different genders and different city combinations prefer. So we were able to create that so that as soon as you land on their website, we're curating the top 2 picks that we feel you're gonna prefer and just do it dynamically for each individual. And that led to 20% uplift in conversions. Like the top line increased 20% in 3 weeks. So that's something that we were able to drive. And there are a bunch of such stories. And it's interesting where the insight is that if I were to go and replicate this on another brand's website, it wouldn't work. So how I purchase my eyeglasses is very different to how, say, Gen Z buys a sneaker. I am looking at the shape, the silhouette, the color, the brand. The brand matters the most there. Different attributes drive decision making for different categories, and that is where we that's where the fun lies with us. How I met my co-founder, so we used to work at the same place prior to this, and he was part of the tech team. I was part of the, as he claims, the non-technical marketing team, because according to him, everything non-technical is just marketing. But yeah, so that's where we met, had a good work relationship, and we started this together. And what do we feel, like how our teams set up potentially, like our right to win just as a function of the team? I think it's almost everybody's younger than 24, so they're born and not born, they're brought up in terms of computer science education in the era of ChatGPT. And it's interesting where in our interview rounds we ask them to use coding agents to be able to solve problems more efficiently, because the time to solve a problem is much smaller now. So how effectively they're using AI to write code, and how effectively they are, given that context, are able to use that in creating applications. Fundamentally, it's a function of age and quality density that we've been able to put together, and just really raise a sharp focus on the cause that we're sort of working towards. So yeah, I think if I had to capture it in a single line, while majority of the commerce industry right now is solving for 10-minute product deliveries, we'd want to solve for a minute-long product discovery, where it shouldn't take more than a minute for you to discover the right product and really make that purchase happen. So yeah, that line encapsulates whatever we are trying to achieve. Then there are many sub-problems, which are business problems that sort of, are sub-parts of this larger conglomerate of solving product discovery in a minute. So be it, what product do you see on Meta while you're browsing on Instagram from a brand's perspective, to actually what WhatsApp do you receive that, hey, you've left these items in your cart, but no, we know this is the product that you're interested in. So there are multiple touch points that are covered there, but yeah, the vision that we chase is, can we help you discover products more efficiently through brand experiences? So I could probably go deeper into the how of things. The first thing is understanding your catalog better. So as I said, this frame is circular in nature, has plastic material, while the glass is of X quality. So can we understand your each and every product and create hundreds of attributes immediately without you having to train custom classifiers? That's step one. Then can we understand your visitors' intent in real time on your web store? So for instance, for this glass itself, I am concerned that would it break easily? Or I'm concerned that I have scratches on my glasses very quickly. So is it higher quality so the scratch protection is slightly higher? Now, if I'm reading through that review that says that I am very intentful to make a purchase and this is the point that I'm stuck at, so could we build that deep understanding of where the user is in their buying journey and then convert? So there is deep data understanding and depth of how well we understand your catalog and visitors, and then it's essentially marrying it together to create action. So can we in real time show you relevant content which I mean, in ChatGPT, you get it from a textual perspective, but can I create a banner in runtime for you that says, this is the best glass that you could buy for scratch resistance? And then the final step is finding, we like to think of it as the framework is data, decisions, design, deployment, and testing. In that decision framework is where we feel a lot of the value getting added. So example, and it's interesting from a brand story, we figured out that for Delhi, floral patterns tend to work well for kurtis category at a certain price range. But for Chennai, darker shades work better. Now that insight automatically getting generated, and it's very interesting. Darker shades are working. What's the definition of working? It's working with a large amount of traffic base for my website, and it's leading to higher revenue as compared to every other attribute that I'm inferring. The system for it to be able to infer all of that, take decision, and then autonomously show people in Chennai darker shades of the same kurti is what's creating that value chain as a recursive loop and unlocking autonomy in the agentic system. Typically, with almost every brand that we work with, and we work with close to 50 brands now of meaningful scale, like there's a larger long tail to the platform that we've built. But almost all of those have seen upwards of 20% uplift in conversion rate. I think that's the metric that every brand is right now concerned about. But what we like to measure is revenue per visitor, which is for every visit. Like I have a cost per click, like how much money am I spending to bring somebody to my website, and hence how much money am I earning from every visitor. So that revenue per visitor increased by 28% because we also take AOV uplift. So the average order value also increases. I think our core is apparel as a categories. We've gone very deep. So we have almost every large brand first experience enabler on Helium. So apparel category and beauty categories are two categories that we've doubled down on and have really gotten great results. So any brand in that category, we feel very confident of delivering at scale those results that I mentioned. But we have customers both in India, Middle East and US. So that geographical scaling of the platform and understanding each of those geographies has also worked out well. I think this is something that almost every, I think OpenAI also sort of struggles with. But what we've really done is we've created levers of what's a P1 action. Like when we say P1 action, it makes breaking changes to my website. What's P2 action, which is where it's making product positioning changes. So those are meaningful but are not as breaking. And then there are P3 sort of actions, which are I'm changing the product ordering, I'm editing something. So P3 happens autonomously because those are a bunch of those happening together. P1 and P2 is something that we allow. P1 for sure, we allow the brand to, without a brand giving an approval, that green signal, we don't sort of push it to production. And P2, the brand gets the liberty to choose if they want to have that control or not. So that's something that we've sort of taken care of. But I'd be lying to myself and if I said, things don't break from a GenAI perspective, but I think we've been able to bring that down to less than 0.1%. At large scales, it's not as significant, but again, it's a metric that we track internally. I'll probably start with who's the relevant brand. Like when does a brand becomes relevant from a personalization standpoint? So if a brand does upwards of 1 crore in sales, per month, they're ripe for personalization. They have enough juice to be extracted out from a personalization standpoint. But I think that begins at 50 lakhs, but 1 crore is a great number for us to begin at. Who buys in that brand? So if it's an early stage leaner team, it's typically the founder or the growth lead. But if it's a slightly more sophisticated, larger team, typically it starts with the product manager or the growth person or the performance marketer, and then sort of the CMO is the final decision maker. It's interesting where I think in the age of AI, with a lot of SaaS products, you can't be like, I have a monthly subscription fee that you need to pay without me really justifying my ROI. So how we price it is, we look at, from our internal lens, we look at it that if a brand is doing 100 rupees and if I can generate additional 20% of revenue, which is 120, that 20 rupees, I should be charging at a 5% of it. So I should be charging a rupee. So, sorry, not 5%, like 20x the ROI. So hence, 1 rupee is what we're charging of the additional revenue, but we don't want to peg ourselves to that additional revenue construct. So what we typically do is based on the scale. So we begin at anywhere of a 30,000 rupees per month construct for a very small scale brand. And sort of scale it up basis the number of monthly sessions that the brand sees. So that's how we typically sort of, so that the ROI is justified. Everybody is very first principles, and it's something that I often hear, you hear from the top people in the world talk about first principles, but I'm seeing it in action here, where people are breaking down complex problems and really complex problems that people are solving at Reliance into very simple, understandable, yet very meaningfully insightful discussions, which is what I was curious how, like, is it a culture thing? How do you practice it? And a lot of those questions came to my mind, but that's something that I saw and would be taking away from a sort of learning perspective. But I think very keen, just the quality of conversations that we are having with the right stakeholders.